America is facing a quiet crisis that rarely makes headlines, yet it affects millions every single day. It is not only an economic crisis, a political crisis, or even a mental health crisis. At its core, it is an identity crisis. A growing number of people no longer know who they are outside of what they produce, earn, or display to the world. Identity, which once came from community, belief systems, and long-term purpose, has slowly been replaced by performance and survival. For decades, Americans were taught to define themselves through achievement. Your job title, income level, productivity, and social status became shortcuts for identity. This system worked when economic growth matched effort, but when wages stagnated, costs exploded, and job security vanished, that identity collapsed. People kept working harder, but the rewards stopped matching the sacrifice. As a result, many now feel invisible, replaceable, and disconnected from their own lives. This loss of identity is deeply destabilizing. Humans are not built to exist without meaning. When identity becomes unclear, anxiety fills the gap. People begin to question their worth, their direction, and their place in the world. This uncertainty quietly erodes confidence and self-respect. Over time, it creates a sense of being lost, even while appearing functional on the surface. Social media has intensified this problem. Constant exposure to curated success stories creates false benchmarks for identity. People compare their behind-the-scenes struggles to someone else's highlight reel. This comparison distorts self-perception and creates pressure to become something marketable rather than authentic. Identity turns into a performance instead of a lived experience. When identity is externally defined, it becomes fragile. Any job loss, financial setback, or social rejection feels like a personal collapse. That is why so many Americans today feel emotionally exhausted even when nothing dramatic has happened. They are carrying an identity that was never stable to begin with. The modern American identity crisis is especially severe because it is happening in isolation. Previous generations struggled too, but they struggled within strong communities. Churches, neighborhoods, extended families, and shared traditions provided a sense of belonging. Today, many people live surrounded by others, yet feel completely alone. Digital connection has replaced real connection, but it cannot fulfill the same psychological needs. This isolation creates a dangerous feedback loop. When people feel lost, they withdraw. When they withdraw, they lose opportunities to rediscover themselves through shared experiences. Over time, isolation hardens into emotional numbness. People stop asking who they are and focus only on getting through the day. Survival replaces self-discovery. Men, in particular, are facing a unique identity collapse. Traditional definitions of masculinity were tied to providing, stability, and strength. When economic and social systems made those roles harder to fulfill, many men were left without a clear replacement identity. Society removed old expectations but failed to provide new, meaningful frameworks. The result is confusion, resentment, and emotional suppression. Women also face identity fragmentation. They are expected to succeed professionally, maintain emotional intelligence, manage households, and present perfection online. These conflicting roles pull identity in too many directions at once. When everything is expected, nothing feels authentic. Many women feel successful yet deeply unfulfilled. This crisis does not announce itself loudly. It appears as chronic stress, irritability, lack of motivation, and a persistent feeling that life is happening without your participation. People keep moving forward, but internally they feel disconnected from their own story. This is not laziness. It is identity fatigue. Rebuilding identity in a broken system requires intentional effort. It does not come from finding the perfect job, relationship, or lifestyle overnight. Identity is rebuilt by reconnecting with values rather than outcomes. Values provide internal stability when external circumstances change. When people know what they stand for, they are less shaken by what happens to them. The first step is slowing down enough to listen inwardly. Constant distraction prevents self. Silence feels uncomfortable because it exposes unanswered questions. But those questions are not threats. They are invitations. Who are you when no one is watching? What matters to you beyond approval? What kind of life feels honest rather than impressive? Identity is also rebuilt through agency. Making small, conscious choices that align with personal values restores a sense of self. This could mean setting boundaries, learning a skill for growth rather than profit, or choosing meaningful work over status-driven work. Each aligned action strengthens identity. Another essential part of recovery is community. Identity is not formed in isolation. Humans discover themselves through relationships, shared struggles, and contribution. Finding or rebuilding community does not require perfection. It requires presence. Being seen and seeing others rehumanizes identity. Most importantly, identity must be separated from constant productivity. You are not your output. You are not your income. You are not your online presence. When identity is rooted in being rather than performing, it becomes resilient. The American identity crisis is real, but it is not permanent. It is a transition, a painful one, but also an opportunity to build identities based on meaning instead of pressure. Those who take this moment seriously will not just survive the future. They will shape it. Asterisk, asterisk. One of the most damaging effects of this identity crisis is how it reshapes people's relationship with time. Many Americans feel stuck between a past that no longer makes sense and a future that feels uncertain or unreachable. When identity is unclear, the future stops feeling like something you build and starts feeling like something that happens to you. This creates a constant state of mental tension. People are busy but directionless. They are moving but not progressing in a way that feels meaningful. This loss of direction often turns into quiet despair, not the dramatic kind shown in movies, but a dull, persistent heaviness. People wake up tired even after sleeping. They lose interest in goals they once cared about. They feel disconnected from milestones that society tells them should matter. This is not because they are ungrateful or weak. It is because those milestones no longer align with a clear sense of self. The system unintentionally reinforces this confusion. Advertising, media, and culture continuously sell identities instead of helping people discover their own. Be richer, be more attractive, be more productive, be more visible. But none of these answers the deeper question of who you are when none of that is guaranteed. When identity is built on external validation, it collapses the moment validation disappears. Many people try to escape this discomfort through distractions, endless scrolling, binge-watching substances, or overworking. These provide temporary relief but deepen the problem. Avoiding the identity question does not make it go away. It only makes it louder later. Eventually, life forces a pause. Burnout, loss, failure, or emotional breakdown. These moments feel like destruction. but they are often the first honest invitation to rebuild. The way forward is not about reinventing yourself overnight. It is about remembering that identity is not something you find once and keep forever. It evolves. The problem is not change itself, but change without reflection. When people slow down enough to reflect, even painful experiences begin to form meaning. Identity becomes a story you actively write instead of one you passively inherit. This process requires courage. Letting go of identities that no longer fit can feel like failure, even when they were never truly yours. Walking away from expectations, family pressure, social norms, cultural definitions of success can feel lonely at first. But that loneliness is often temporary. What replaces it is clarity, and clarity brings strength. For many Americans, the most radical act today is choosing depth over speed, choosing meaning over image, choosing alignment over approval. These choices may not be rewarded immediately, but they rebuild something far more valuable than status. When you trust yourself, uncertainty becomes manageable. Life feels less like a threat and more like a challenge. You are capable of facing that the identity crisis is painful because it strips away illusions. But illusions were never solid ground. What emerges after the collapse is the possibility of a more honest identity, one based on values, presence, and purpose rather than performance. This version of identity does not disappear when things go wrong. It adapts, learns, and grows. America is not just struggling economically or politically. It is struggling, and that struggle, if faced honestly, can become a turning point. Those who rebuild their identity from the inside out will not just feel better. They will live with intention in a world that desperately needs it.